I'm so glad I've got the mic, but you have to excuse my croaky voice. As you heard, I was elected last night as a councillor, so there was a lot of screaming and shouting. For myself, but for the collective we, as in Labour took the Conservatives out after 44 years in Wandsworth. So. There was a lot of jumping and a lot of voicing, so literally you have to bear with me if I'm a bit slower than people may have seen me present in the past. So I'll start by just saying thank you to Kenny for the platform, for inviting me here to share the work that I do as a campaigner. I won't say as a councillor because that hasn't really started yet, a bit enough. And also to the University of Cambridge, of which I'm an alumni. I studied here in 2006 to 2009, did my undergraduate in social and political sciences. And then to Joe and organisers, Julian and everybody else that's made this happen. So thank you ever so much. For the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk to you a bit about the work that I do, how I got into it and why it's important. You'll probably know some of this information, but I think it was what Gabriella said earlier about racism morphing, and we need to be really astute to that and understand that sometimes the narratives that we're being given are not the truth, that media representation. So I'm just going to go a bit through the work that I do, and similar to Katrina, it's a bit personal, it's not at all, it's not my thesis, so there we are. So who are we and what do I do? I am the founder director of Unjust, a non-profit organisation that focuses on challenging oppression, specifically around policing and criminal justice, racial discrimination, empowering resistance, so how do you support people to challenge wrongdoing, and creating change, how do you stop the madness from happening. Strapline is right and wrong, creating equity, and the idea is it's fine to right the wrong, but how do you empower and heal people? What does equity look like? How do we create that when you've been disempowered? What do we do? So we have a research policy advocacy arm, so looking at different sorts of areas, so stop and search, use of force, mental health and policing, so forth, and then researching that, amplifying where that disparity might be, and then putting forward policy proposals and advocating with elected officials, I'm one of those, about how we could change. We also undertake litigation, so at the moment we've got a judicial review case against the Metropolitan Police for its use of the gangs matrix, a racist database. So we're taking them to court. We've been given permissions to proceed. We've fundraised over £8,000. We've got to fundraise another 10 grand. I think it's important to say that because some people don't back their chat. They'll say it, but they don't back their chat. I didn't start an organisation about me. It was for we. It was to challenge injustice. It was to take the risks that other organisations wouldn't take because they're not necessarily rooted in the community that is impacted by over-policing. Where do we operate? In London, Brixton, literally overseeing the police station, 7th floor of International House, if anyone knows it. I can see in the back of the police station. No word of a lie. Literally, I'm like, yeah, I can see you guys. I took it figuratively and literally. And who do we work with? So essentially, people that are impacted by racialised communities, the Black and global majority, specifically Black Caribbean people, Black African people, because me being Black Caribbean, they come to us. So as an organisation recognising that often there's nowhere for people to go to, Unjust was set up to be the donkey, I don't mind using that word, patient man ride donkey, to carry the heavy loads so that when people came and had been abused or had a bad experience with the police that they believed to be unfair, unjust, we would carry the heavy load and they would do the guiding. So they didn't have to carry that because to challenge the state, it's tiring. Fighting racism is costly, and that's not just money, it's your physical, it's your spirit, it's your being. And I think it was really important about Black joy, Black excellence, because for far too long we're having to fight. So really important that there's organisations that say, we'll do the heavy lifting, just tell us what you want to do. Working with academics to make sure that when we are going to do research, it is robust, it's got ethical approval, that we're uncovering the right things, but also with lawyers, so that if somebody comes to me with litigation, I can signpost or potentially get free legal support for them. And we've been able to do that. I think we've referred about 5 clients to solicitor firms over the last few months. Some really bad cases, as in Black woman had her breast out the door by the police and was arrested. They didn't even cover up her breast when they put the cuffs on and just had her titty out, like, whoa. So those sorts of cases where people was like, it's not right, but where do I go? And then recognising the police have a duty of care to you, speak to a solicitor. So making sure that we're bridging the gap. I see myself as a vessel, as a conduit to enable people that do not have the power, not because they don't have the power, because they don't feel the power, because they're so tired to do that sort of work. Policy experts, elected officials, civil society, community groups. So the idea is that we do community engagement work, which is about sharing information about your rights, how to engage with the police safely, because the idea is we have far too many deaths after conduct. So if you are being triggered, what can we do? How can, as a community, we support people to leave that situation safely? I don't know if this is going to work, hopefully it will. Can someone press play? We have a small video just to conceptualise how far we've come. Is it in the corner? If it's not, I don't mind. No? No video.
No, sorry, I don't think so.
Okay, it's usually in the bottom, I don't know. Don't worry about it. But it was basically highlighting from 1960 to 1981 the rights were that, I dare say, not first wave, but as some of you being young people in that time having to come up to the cold face of policing, but actually recognising after Brixton, Toxteth, after Broadwater Farm, it continues. So my talk is about protection or oppression. I just want to show of hands, who would say that the police are there to protect them? Oh gosh. Okay, so I know the audience. So if they're not there to protect you, how do they oppress you? And these are some of the things that we focus on where we found racial discrimination. They call it disparity now, disproportionality, discrimination. Stop and search, so we've seen increases in not just the use of stop and search, but also the racial disparity, black men more likely to be stopped. We see use of police force. I sit on the National Taser Stakeholder Advisory Group, and looking at police rollout of taser should really be used in last resort. Young black man in Tottenham tasered as he was running away from the police, now paralysed. Jordan Walker Brown for the cannabis, although he didn't have cannabis on him. Mental health and policing comes back to, are we protected or oppressed? When we are vulnerable, are we seen as risk? Kevin Clark, Lewisham, restrained by the police in the midst of a mental health episode, wasn't supported, wasn't protected, but in essence was oppressed. Policing technology and data-driven harms, I put this in because we see that as time, racism morphs, it doesn't ever fix itself, it morphs, is that the introduction of technology, so biometric fingerprint scanners for immigration, that's connected to the police. My thing is you should only be getting my fingerprint if I've done something wrong, not because you think I've done something wrong. So we're seeing an extension of the police station onto the road. You know, I think you're not who you say you are, I want your fingerprint. That doesn't feel right, it isn't right. But then on top of that, the layer of we can't be racist because the tech says to do this, so facial recognition technology, where you see you're more likely to be misidentified as a black person, but the police will say that's the computer's fault. Who puts the data into the computer? Who are the programmers? And I think we just need to be mindful of this narrative that something can't be racist or discriminatory because it's tech, because tech isn't made in a vacuum. And the gangs matrix is part of that data-driven, you know, we've seen you with somebody, we've got you on our list, that means you warrant more oppression, or actually we're protecting people and your community from people like you. And that's why I wanted to use the play on words, because these things are being used as protection for the community, stop and search. Having police in schools, it's protecting. Drug law enforcement, we need to have less drug dealers, but actually when we look at the statistics, we're being oppressed. Just some stats here, so 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched, white males from the Home Office, 5 times more likely to have force used against you. And when I think about force, that's a baton, that could be a taser, that could be gas, that could be handcuffs. You know, you're presented with that as a civilian who often doesn't have any dangerous items on you, but a police officer that does. What's the decision making behind how the officer chooses to engage with you? Are you being protected, or is it a risk? Is it big black man, you know, aggressive black woman? 3% of the UK population, but deaths in custody or deaths as a result of conduct, police contacts. And I think it's just really important to remember that. And whilst there may not be many, one is too many. And then the final bit is about allegations of racially motivated misconduct. So when we do complain, what happens? None. However, because we live in a British society where we like to document stuff, I still encourage people to come and complain. Because unless it's evidence or we say something, it's anecdotal. So it was that document, discuss, disseminate. I took that away from her, Liz's, but that sort of, we need it. We need to document it. And if you don't want to complain to the police, let's look at civil litigation. Let's see what the routes are for us. And if you don't want to complain at all, can we take your story? Can we have it as a testament? Can we build an evidence base of people who are saying, I don't want to trust the system, but I want an organisation to know this happened to me? Just some people that have not been protected by the police. So there's a range here. I'll be 38 this year. The man in the middle was Brian Douglas, friend of my uncle's, family friend from Balham. He was killed by a police baton, new sort of police baton, as a result of a stop and search. Kevin Clark. We've got Joy Gardner on there. We've got Cynthia Jarrett. We've got the sisters that were not protected. Their bodies were then shared on social media. Child Q. So I really wanted to illustrate that whilst we can go right back to the 80s, there's some modern stuff that's going on that sometimes is just a snippet, and it's important that we don't follow that mantra that it's a snapshot. This for us it's a longevity. You know, it isn't just Mark Duggan and the London riots. This goes back to Brixton and over police, and it goes back to other things. And then I thought it was really relevant, policing in the pandemic, because we've just had 2 years of COVID. Black, Asian, ethnic minorities apparently were more disproportionately likely to be impacted. Then we saw the police had the highest rates of stop and search in 8 years in the midst of a pandemic. If we can't get protection in a pandemic, when can we get it? Can we get it? Can we? Are we expected to get it? Because if it's a pandemic and we can't be protected by the police, in London, 22,000 black males were stopped in the period of March to May, with I think a no further action rate of about 75%. So the perception was that they were up to no good because they were out and about, not that they were vulnerable, helping their mums, their sisters, not that they were school teachers waiting for the post office to open. So I really wanted to highlight this because in the time of the pandemic, this is the response that we got. Instead of being protected, we were oppressed. And that was Dawn Butler and high-figured people, but I wanted to highlight that this is Bianca Williams. When the stop happened, Cressida Dick said any officer worth their salt would have done that stop. Obviously she's gone now, and the officers that did the stop up for gross misconduct, I believe. So justice delayed is justice denied, and we see this is that they acknowledge the behaviour, justify it, and then we have to push back, and then after a year and a bit, we get some response. That baby was put onto a database because of virtue of being stopped. I hope it's been removed now, but this is one of those things about criminalisation or being captured by the system. So had she not been Bianca Williams, she could have had social services at her door, because this wouldn't have got picked up, and her car would have been flagged because it was a nice, her boyfriend's car, husband, partners, I think BM, nice, black bus driving in a high crime area, which is not high crime in London. So, pigs could fly, what would we do? So I wanted to talk about what the state should do and then come to what we should do. And I said a responsible state, and I said, what if pigs could fly, because they've not done any of this yet. So pigs might fly, but we'll see. Implement recommendations for reviews and reports. So we've obviously got Scarman, we've got McPherson, we've got Angelini, we've got Lammy, we've got Taylor. We've got every report, there's no action on them. So if we're pushing, we don't want more reports, we want action. Can we implement those? Adopt evidence-based approaches. So cannabis, laws changing across the country, but we're still running people down for a spliff, particularly around Carnival, which is coming back this year, but we have festivals happening in Middle England where white middle class kids bring their drugs, they're tested, A-class drugs, and they're allowed to go to the festival and take those, no criminality, allowed to have a good time safely, go to uni. Little Jamal gets caught with a quarter bag, you're getting reprimanded by the police. We want evidence-based approaches, but also harm reduction. And the harm isn't just in criminalisation, it's about supporting people and children, young people to make better choices. So it's not everyone must smoke weed, no, it's criminalising people for smoking weed only further damages and undermines our trust and confidence, but also leads us to probably have to sell weed because you can't get a job. So in a very vicious cycle. Increased investment in community-led initiatives. We know what we want, they're just not giving us funding to do that, so let's not have policing fix everything, let's have more prevention that only happens with investment. strengthening accountability. The IOPC, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, for me isn't fit for purpose because it makes recommendations and we're going to do nothing about them. So how do we have more robust scrutiny externally, but also internally? And I came through a Stop and Scrutiny panel. I sat on one, and that's how I kind of got into this space. I used to work for the council. I started volunteering my time to do scrutiny, ended up chairing that thing, and then was headhunted to be the CEO of a national charity. But it was because I did the thing I loved. It wasn't because I thought I would do it. And that comes from wanting to make change. But actually, once you get into the system and realise you don't, you become apathetic. So there is something that has to happen that involves people, but it cannot be without an end result or impact. And then some policy bit, end the racist war on drugs. It is racist, let's just be clear about that. I'm not out here telling everyone to go take pills, pop mandy, but understand that that is being used to disenfranchise our community and not like it is for other communities. Stop criminalising mental health issues. It's very difficult not to have mental health issues in a racist society, whether that be anxiety, whether that be depression, whether it just be burnout that happens. We need to stop criminalising that. And as Black community also, when we see people needing help, get the help. Don't wait for it to rain and pour. Let's start having conversations about how ill or well you are. Creating a leadership model and culture that is anti-racist. I don't know if it's possible, but everyone's banding that about. Whether the police can do that, the state can do that. I'm not sure, because it comes back to the belly is rotten. Belly rotten. No. Someone said if a cup's broken, the wine will be wasted. And then use conflict resolution and de-escalation. Everyone's quick to draw for a taser, draw for a baton. What happened to having a conversation? I think it comes back to we're not seen as vulnerable, we're seen as risky. So we have to control you. Control space, but also control your body. And those are things that the state should be looking at and questioning. So community, this came out a bit wrong, but it was meant to be community. And the idea was, this was we, this is us now, and this is Bob saying when the rain falls, it don't rain on one man's house. Because often in the work that I do, people only come when it's their problem. And I understand that because we've all got lots of problems, but if we want change, we mustn't wait for it to be our problem and then want everyone else to make it their problem. We need to be involved, whether that be supporting the family, whether that be volunteering for something. Find what your niche is, whether it is mentoring. You have to be involved in the change, and it may not be civil criminal justice change, but it could be something that's preventative, so people aren't getting involved in those things in the first place. So, resistance, reform, revolution. What can we do? Develop our knowledge and understanding of policing and justice. So the child Q situation should never, ever, 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 ever have happened. And I would have been really keen to make sure that parents know that doesn't happen in a school. Let's have that off the bat. It doesn't happen. And if it does, you need to go to a solicitor when your child comes home. Don't go to them and start having no conversation about you did this, I did that, it's finished. You violated my rights, you speak to my solicitor. Justice delayed is justice denied. So making sure we're aware of what's right, what's wrong, or who do I go to? Because if you don't know, you're likely not to be able to fix it. Engage with our children and youth. So share those experiences about SUS, but also recognise children have experiences now that you haven't experienced. They're the experts at being young today. So when things are happening, please don't say, what did you do? What happened? Because the police come and say, what did you do? And then we say, what did you do? And there's no space. So having conversations that open up, that this isn't about young people being involved in gangs or knife crime. This is it's been going on for ages, and that is the narrative of now. In the 80s, it was muggings. In the early 90s, it was yardie gangs, Trident, black on black crime. And we have to push back at the narratives we've accepted. Black on black crime, what is that? I said, I was in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, in Belfast, having a conference, and I said, well, is this white on white crime? Was it Protestant, Catholic? I don't know. Making those points about language that we've accepted, and I call it drinking the Kool-Aid because it's sweet. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. It's not good for us, because what we start to do is accept things like having policing in schools because it's safer. The criminals aren't in the school, they're on the street. How? Or if we're going to have that, let's assess what's been the impact of having them in the school. What has it stopped? What has it prevented? How safe do people feel? Let's not make assumptions that it will be safe, because often where the police are, we're unsafe. Support others experiencing injustice. So that means signpost. It means in this world, it means digitally sharing injustice. It means saying, have you gone to this? It means having a conversation about it. It doesn't mean just leaving it. You have to support. So I say that because we often don't, because we're busy. But we'll be busy until we're not busy unless you come in and calling me. So my thing is, digitally now, it's not a lot to retweet something, it's not a lot to write a word of support, it is not a lot to go outside of Stoke Newton police station on a Friday and stand there for an hour just to be in solidarity, because if it was your picnic, you want all of us to come. So have that time of, if you can go to work, I keep saying Babylon doesn't pay us to dismantle the system. Very rarely, you have to do that in your free time. So how are you investing your free time to break down the systems? Find those things. It may not be criminal justice, but find that thing that you're not being paid to do. That's not your family, it's not your friend, but you can see it being a benefit for your community. Get involved. So if you are partial to systems, we need more magistrates. We need more appropriate adults. The magistrates are the people, these are the people making decisions about our young kids when they go to the court. We're not there. Mentors, how many people are mentoring someone? That doesn't have to be every week. It could be, you know, I'm available every 2 weeks for a conversation. What does it look like today? Making sure that the youth have learned from our experiences with our mistakes, but also how the state morphs. We have to be showing them the state morphs. With all this technology, the state is morphing. Seeing you on social media, it's morphing. Not saying don't do it, but be mindful about how the things you do can be used against you. Collaboration and creation. If it's not there, create it. I created Unjust. I used to be CEO of a national charity, raised them over £500,000 in my last year, and then, let's just say, recognised there was another way. And I left that, didn't know what I was going to do next, and thank you God to the Most High, the ancestors, that Unjust just popped into my head one day in the shower, and that was it. I created an organisation, and it was about recognising there was a gap, and how can we create and collaborate to fix that. We can't keep asking people to fix our problems, we need to work together to fix them ourselves. And then accessing culturally competent services. Can't express this more than enough. There are spaces where you can go and get support by people that look like you. It might take a lot longer to find, but unless you ask, unless we be vulnerable to ourselves and we let the guard down, we will suffer in silence. So I say to people, please don't. If you don't want to tell your friends, ask somebody about where can I get support for my son who I think is hanging around with people I don't like. What can I do? Don't wait for it to happen. Ask before. Or I can see that my child's a bit depressed. Because CAMS isn't going to help you. The waiting list is too long. So let's start thinking much more outside of that and accessing culturally support services. I'm going to end there just by saying, if there's ever anything that you think is unjust, and please do get in touch with me. We focused on policing, but I'm very keen to, as we expand, look at prisons, look at probation, because it's a system. And once you're in at policing, you're funneled through. If we can try and stem the flow of policing, it doesn't fix whoever's in the system, but it's making the job easier because we're stemming the flow. So I'd really implore you, if you do see things that you think aren't right, you just want to have a conversation or there's been a stop, pick up the phone, call me, drop me an email. Katrina, invite me somewhere to speak, to share that knowledge. And I don't mind if it's only 6 of us in a room. Like, for me, it doesn't matter the number, it's the quality of people that want to be there. I'm not about numbers, I'm about quality of the conversation. So more than happy to come to an area and empower you with that information. All you have to do is ask. So I really implore you that there's a lot of stuff going on with the policing bill now. If anyone knows, it's been passed. And we're going to see definitely an increase in disproportionality around stop and search and how it's being used. Let's be aware of that and mobilise and know how to respond and not react. And I would really just implore you to get in touch with me if you want any sort of advice and guidance around that. More than happy to support. Shout out to Kenny for the platform today. Thank you. My name's Katrina.